Sharpie Sows. When hunting up in North Texas, the rancher had told me that there was a lot of new rooting on the property, and as I was checking it out, noticed that there were thousands of spots from very shallow to several inches deep. So I got set up on the north end of the property under a full moon. Winds were out of the south, and I waited. For the first couple hours, the only thing I saw was this coyote out there at about 220 yards. As I got lined up on him, he started to move again, and I couldn't get him to stop. And here he's going to disappear into the brush. Well, the hogs finally showed up about 9:30. I was on one of my circuits around the property. Noticed them off in the distance. They'd been showing up on camera a few nights over the past couple weeks. And it looked to be a pretty good sounder. I guess there's about 20 hogs in all. And here I'm moving up through the woods quietly. The wind's blowing in my direction, which is great. So they're not going to smell me. They're probably not going to hear me. The problem that I'm having is it's a full moon and it's a very bright moon. At this point, I can actually see them without using my thermal optic. I had met with the rancher earlier in the evening. He asked that I focus on sows. Now sometimes it's kind of hard to tell sows from boars when they're small. However, there's a couple great big sows in this group. There's one moving off to the right hand side of the screen, and of course one where the crosshairs are right now. That's in the back shaking its head. Those are both pregnant. And that's going to be the one that I want. And it looks like the rest of the hogs are moving down into a ravine, so I'm going to lose my targets here pretty quick. I need to get lined up on something and take a shot. With all of these hogs channeling together, they're getting lined up. And I'm going to get an opportunity to try for a twofer and try to get this great big sow right here. Nope. And now it's a matter of finding the lead on this running sow, and she goes down. And one more right here. Now the custom reloads of CRD Speer Gold Dot bullets I'm using have had excellent penetration, so watch this in slow motion. Did you see what happened? The bullet entered the shoulder as intended. I expected it to go through and hit the big sow behind it. Instead, it deflected off the spine, exited out forward of the hip, gave the big sow a goose, and the bullet bounced off high in the air. Here's that sequence again in super slow motion. Watch carefully. And there the bullet goes into the air, and the big sow takes off down into the ravine. A few minutes later, I'm doing my walk up. There's the first hog that's down. There's the second and third hogs that are down. And somewhere between checking on the first hog and going to the second, the third hog disappeared.
Brass Catcher by Tactical Brass Recovery.
So I ended up with a 240-pound pregnant sow and a smaller 90-pound sow that was not pregnant. The shot entered behind the shoulder and almost immediately hit the spine, and it exited out just forward of the hip with about a finger-sized hole. Obviously, no bullet was recovered. The bullet hit at about 2,359 feet per second, entering behind the shoulder, hitting the spine, deflecting, damaging 3 vertebrae in the process, exiting forward of the hip with more than 14 inches of penetration before bouncing off the second sow. The 240-pound sow that I dropped had more than 1.5 inches of fat along its back. And most people say you can't get bacon from feral hogs, but there's definitely bacon here. The first shot entered the front of the shoulder. The second shot entered low and behind the shoulder. The first shot here is where I have my finger in its hole. And the second shot doing a lot more damage, you can see on the right. And the second shot exited in the neck below the broken leg that you see. As noted, she was pregnant. She was carrying 7 on board. Looking at the performance of the Speer Gold Dot bullet, it entered at about 2,270 feet per second into the left shoulder, breaking 2 ribs, losing a pedal in the process, passing under the spine, breaking 2 ribs on exiting the thoracic cavity. then smashing into the humerus and shattering it with about 12 inches of penetration and no exit. And finally, there was no recovery of the second bullet that entered the body at about 2,260 feet per second, behind and low on the left shoulder, breaking 3 ribs in the process, severing a major blood vessel, which caused the major gush that you saw in the video. It exited the neck with about a half-inch hole after 14 inches of penetration. Carpe sus, my friends.